So, Jared, thank you so much for talking with me today. I've been looking forward to this conversation for quite some time. But actually, before we get into a lot of the, our questions today, I really just wanted to thank you for your service. I actually come from some military families. My brother-in-law is actually still full-time military. He spent time at, I think it was called Iraqi Freedom.
Yep.
And he actually, funny enough, worked in logistics and supplies there. My grandfather was in World War II. He was stationed in France. And my great uncle served under Patton. So I didn't have the guts to go into the military. It was something that I was thinking about. So anytime I see anybody in military walking into the grocery store, I always thank them. So if I haven't told you, Jared, thank you for your service, man. Very much appreciated.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I too come from a long lineage of both my grandfathers were in World War II. My step-grandfather was in Vietnam. My uncle was in Vietnam. I've had cousins serve in all the branches, and I credit it for a lot of where I've gotten to today because, I was a knucklehead when I was 18 and 19 and probably would have ended up in prison if it wasn't for the military. So it definitely got me on the right course.
That's awesome, man. Well, again, thank you for your service. Thank your family for their service. The Darren family definitely appreciates it. So I guess that kind of dovetails really nicely, Jared. Maybe introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself and Duie Pyle.
Yeah, my name's Jared Hutkowski. I'm the director of brokerage here at Duie Pyle. I've been here for about 2.5 years. So Pyle itself has been around for almost 101 years now. We're the largest regional LTL carrier in the Northeast. We also have a warehousing division, a dedicated division, and then obviously our brokerage division. Our brokerage division was started about 15 years ago and grew organically over about a 10-year period. And about 2.5 years ago, 2 years ago when I got here, Craig Lau and myself, we relaunched our brokerage offering in a little bit more strategic way, more of like a traditional brokerage that's going out and hunting for customers and looking for freight, as opposed to a more of a reactionary, offering that was there. That was, hey, when we need it, it's great, but there's not a big focus on it. So we have a lot of time and attention into this relaunch, and we picked the absolute best market ever in the history of trucking to start it in. So it's been a ride.
Yeah, I think I can echo that. When we started the business, it was just after COVID. I mean, like just after COVID. So I can totally understand that feeling.
Yeah.
I think you were starting to touch on this a little bit, Jared, but what does make a Duie Pyle stand out from maybe competition in the industry? Is there a particular niche or market that you're working in?
So from a brokerage standpoint, we're really focusing on 53-foot dry van freight out of our territory. So Pyle services from Virginia up to Maine, west to West Virginia and Ohio. That's really where a lot of our core volume comes from. It's where we specialize. Every customer meeting we're in, we tell them, like, look, we're not going to quote everything. We don't want to quote everything. We want to quote what we're good at. We want to quote what we know and where we can give you the best service offering. The other stuff, hey, if you need us to price it, we're going to, but we'll tell you up front, we're probably going to be a little bit higher and our service might not be as great. And Pyle, from an LTL standpoint, what's kept us really going for those 100 years is the Pyle service. We have an industry-leading on-time percentage, an industry-leading claims ratio, and those things really help set that reputation. So from a brokerage standpoint, the big thing that we have to do is live up to the expectation that customers have when the Pyle name is under a shipment. And that's really our big focus. We're going to quote a load. If we get it, we're going to move it. We're not going to come back and say we need more money. It's not going to roll because we can't find a carrier. If we misquote it, that's on us. Load's still going to move. Mm-hmm. We're going to be proactive with our communication. Big thing last year, we actually had 0% turnover in our brokerage department. And I've been in brokerage for 17 years, and it's maybe one of 2 or 3 times that that's happened in the 17 years I've been doing it. So it's a good company, a good culture. And, like I said, the big thing is we want to live up to that reputation that most of our customers have come to expect from Pyle over the course of our, being.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I think it's interesting, not so much interesting, but just it's refreshing to always hear a company that is tried and true with their approach of, hey, this is what we're good at. Yeah, we'll still try to help you in these areas. Like you mentioned, hey, we'll still try to quote the business, but that's not our strong suit, right? Our strong suit is A and B or C and B, whatever it is. And it is interesting to see when other companies try to, do everything or a jack of all trades, and it just doesn't end up working out well.
Yeah.
So, maybe talk to us about what was your purpose for purchasing a platform like Speed to Quote? Why did you end up choosing us versus, some of the other, vendors out in the market?
So the big thing for us, I'm a firm believer in technology enhancing the user's experience, not so much technology replacing the user. I have personally seen some automated quoting systems that have been a nightmare. I've also heard from a lot of peers, from people I've worked with, from other people that have used automated quoting tools, and there's great aspects to them. But if the market flips all of a sudden and your person that's in charge of those programs doesn't adjust, you're in trouble. You could be way overpricing things or way underpricing things. And, for us, it was never a matter of we want to do this automatically, but how do we get the information into one screen? And that's really what Speed to Quote offered us, especially with the Outlook plugin, was the email comes in, we're able to open up the plugin, see the lane, make sure all the data is correct, and then see the rates, our historical rates, our rating engines rates, all in one place. We're able to then make a very quick decision on, okay, what rate do I need to quote? And then send the email right from there with one click of a button. Mm-hmm. So it takes the steps of going from program to program to program to program, looking at maps, looking at this, looking at that, puts it all into one place. And it, takes maybe a 5 to 6 minute venture down to maybe 45 seconds. Mm-hmm. The automatic tracking that it provides with registering that quote into the website, into the reports. That's really what we wanted, was how do we quote more efficiently? How do we make the end user's job more efficient, but without replacing that human element of checking, hey, is this rate good? Because every broker out there, I think, can tell you rates change so quickly, data changes so quickly, that if you're just going off of historicals, you're going to get burnt. You're going to lose freight or you're going to lose money. And you've got to really be able to be in tune with the market and what's going on and get that feel for the pricing so that you can double check where everything's at.
Yeah. Yeah, Jared, I really appreciate that insight on your perspective. And really, at the end of the day, that's really our niche in the market, right? Is there's certainly some good companies out there, doing some automation. That's great, but we want to take a different approach, right? We wanted to have a system that enhances the human element, right? Without removing the human element, right? We wanted to provide technology, meaningful technology to the team members, allow them to quote or report on their quoting activity in an efficient and strategic manner. So I, certainly appreciate your insight there. At a high level, how is your team using Speed to Quote on a daily basis, day-to-day basis? What tools are they using?
So we use the Outlook plugin for any email quotes that we get in. It really pulls in most of the information for you. You just have to double check things, customer shorthands a city or something along those lines. It might not be able to pick up what it is, or they misspell it. You got to just double check that stuff, double check the equipment type, some of those minor things just to make sure it's all in there right. But then, they click the button, they're getting their rates back extremely quickly. They're able to click through the different rate tools right there on the screen. We personally have a very generic template set up so that the rep can save their quote, but then go in and add their personal message to the email, because for me, that's huge. Like, I don't want it to sound like it came from a bot, because it didn't. It came from a person. So, hey, put your personal spin on this. The other big tool that we use a lot, and it's maybe my favorite element, is the RFP tool. That is huge. Just the storing of the data in one place and not having to worry about, is this the most update spreadsheet? I mean, that's the thing that drives me nuts, especially when you have multiple people that look at bids. It's like, all right, which one's the most up to date? Because I don't know, like, you did one thing, you did something else. The history's in there too, so that we can track through as to what's going on. It's a really sleek tool that definitely makes the RFP process a lot faster. And having been ingrained in RFPs for the last 10 years, those things can sometimes take anywhere from an hour to 4 days, depending on how big they are. And this really helps you just get all of that information a lot quicker.
So Jared, who on your team is utilizing our platform today? Is it managers, salespeople, ops, pricing? I guess walk the people through, who at Duie Pyle is using the system.
Yeah, so our frontline freight brokers use it. Our cradle to grave brokers that are quoting customers on a daily basis have it. Our pricing analyst, who runs our spot quotes for our integrated side and our RFPs, use it. And then I myself am in it just about every day, still either looking at the reporting, wins and losses, looking and seeing what we've quoted, or reviewing bids with our pricing team. Okay, where are we at? What did we quote? We're on to round 2 now. Okay, we were high here. What does our cost show? What does this show? What do our other rate tools cost show? Where can we adjust? And really digging through that information with them to understand where we're at and where we need to get to win the freight.
Got it. Are you using Speed to Quote and it sounds like you're using it in a few different manners, and you might have already touched on this, but are you using it to manage your employees, improve sales or gain insight on analytics, or it sounds like it's a little bit of everything?
Yeah, it's a little bit of everything. If a broker or somebody's struggling and saying, hey, I'm quoting this customer 100 times and I haven't won anything yet. It's nice to be able to jump in and just see everything right there. Okay, what have you been quoting? And then we can look at it and go, okay, well, you're not winning anything because you're pricing way too high or whatever it happens to be. But just being able to quickly go back and see that data. And again, the nicest part about it is there's no extra manual entry that they have to do. Every TMS out there has like a quote screen where you can enter your quotes and save them, but you have to enter them every single time. With this, you got to enter the information to run the quote, and then it saves it. So it saves you that extra data entry that really isn't helping anybody, which is great. And then obviously I use it on the RFP side to, like I said, review rates, see where we're at, make sure we're putting things right in there.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I would say you never want to talk badly on your own company, but one of the business hurdles that we have to go through when educating new customers on our email spot quoting is they feel like Big Brother's watching them. They don't want to record everything, and it's like I get it. No one wants to feel like you're over their shoulder. But I always look at it almost like a sports team, right? There's a reason why you look at how you played or how you practice, because you can't get better at your craft, your job, your sport, unless as a team you evaluate what you're doing, right? So if you're, like you said, if you're quoting a customer 100 times and you're not winning, there's a reason for that, right? And when management has zero visibility to that activity or those opportunities, you can't make good business decisions on improving both your salesperson or employee, and you can't help service the customer better. So I tell people, like, it's not as intrusive where someone's looking over your shoulder nonstop, but it is a vital part of just growing and getting better as a company.
Yeah, that's the delicate balance that you have to find as, the leader is you got to use it at the right opportune times. So like, I don't go into it every day and click through every single quote that somebody did and say, hey, you quoted this one $50 too high, or you quoted this one $50 too low. But if a rep comes and they're like, hey, I'm struggling, or hey, I feel like I'm just off on my pricing. Like I just don't feel like I'm comfortable with this customer or this lane or this, what have you, for whatever reason. It's okay. Well, now we can go back and we can review this data and see what you've been doing, which is nice because like you said, even I have that, I don't like being watched 24/7 type feeling. It's like when you say something, to somebody and then you look at your phone and you have ads for whatever you were just talking about, even though they tell you they're not listening to you. It's similar. But, if you use it the right way and deploy it the right way to the group, you get positive feedback from everybody because they also like being able to go back and see that stuff. Like, man, I didn't realize I was quoting this customer so many times and not winning anything, but now they can see that too. And it's not just me that can see it, it's them, which is good.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, and again, you were kind of touching on this a little bit, but is there something that you're doing with the results from the speed to quote reports that you're getting?
From like the reporting results, we're reviewing them kind of just on a as needed basis to see how they're going. I do check in there every now and then just to see kind of what our overall win-loss percentage is like. That's just more for my information to see. And one of the things I look for too when it comes to recording a customer quote is, do we have somebody that is using us as a rating tool? If we've quoted a customer 300 times and we've never won a load, and I can go back and look at those quotes and say, you know what, these are good rates. And if somebody's beating me, good on them because they have some amazing rates or they're losing money. One of the two. Don't know which. But if I can see that and I see like, hey, we're at 100, 200, 300 quotes and we've never gotten anything, we need to now have a conversation with that customer. Either, look, what do we have to be at? Or it looks like you're using us to gauge the market and then going to the carrier you've used forever to like chew their rate down. And we've got to, like, we're all here to make money, us, the customers, the carriers. So we've got to invest our time in the right areas. And okay, do we move on from this customer and say, hey, we can't quote you anymore because we're just not in the ballpark and we haven't won? Or, hey, what do we have to do to get freight? It leads to more conversations and more dialogue that you can have from a sales standpoint.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Have there been any interesting revelations or information gained out of the Speed of Quote platform that surprised you?
That surprised me, not really. But I think it helped solidify some of the thoughts I may have had on certain either customers or reps that needed help with quoting, or just in the RFP world, like being able to relook at lanes after we've put them in there and seeing the costs and all that stuff near each other. I think it's helped bridge the gap as to like, okay, I think this is what's going on, but now I can say, okay, no, I know this is what's going on. So it's helped close that gap a little bit.
Got it. It helps you provide a bit more clarity
Yes.
to your hunches and thoughts of what's going on in the market or your business.
Yes.
Got it. Awesome. How has Speed to Quote changed how you manage your team or process?
From an RFP standpoint, it's definitely improved our process a lot. Like I said, it's taken some time out of the whole process, just getting the rates back faster, having one screen where we can see the costs and be able to adjust costs or margin or revenue, any data we need to adjust right in one spot and have it saved. From a broker spot quote aspect, it's definitely helped with the training. We've got a mixture of reps that have some tenure and then guys that were brand new to the industry. So it's allowed me to really dig in with those newer reps and show, okay, hey, here's where you're losing some volume and here's why. So it's definitely enhanced the management process and the training, which is great, especially for the new folks, because, somebody new hits the floor, generally when they first start actually calling customers, you're shadowing them a little bit or you're listening in a little bit as you're walking by. As they start quoting, boom, right away they're coming over, hey, I finally got a quote. I don't know what to do here. And it's nice because I can tell them, okay, first thing I want you to do is run it through Speed to Quote, see what you get back, figure out where you think you should be, come talk to me and we'll take a look at it together and I'll give you my thoughts or insight as to where I think you should be or what I might recommend doing. And it's made it a little bit easier to have that conversation and get to that information quicker than using the TMS or anywhere else.
Got it. So Jared, why did you choose S2Q Systems over other competitors? Were you using any tool prior to Speed to Quote?
So we had our pricing, websites or tools that we would use. Nothing that brought everything together in one place. So at TIA last year, we were going around the vendor room and I had been talking to Craig, our other director, about it. And I said, hey, we really need to get some type of one platform pricing tool. And I think what actually started the conversation was our COO was approached about going to automated pricing by a TMS that was there. And hey, you guys can quote on everything automatedly and you don't need to do anything. And it was more for our dedicated side, but it's not a fit for the dedicated side because dedicated can't just randomly price every lane that's out there because the trucks need specific needs. But it got me thinking and I was like, all right, so I went around to a lot of the different vendors and talked to them. And the one thing I said from the very beginning at looking at a tool like this is I need something that enhances the user's experience, not replaces the user's experience. And, again, there are a lot of great automated tools out there if that's what you're looking for. It's not what we were looking for. It's not what we were comfortable with. And one of the things that really, besides the product, seeing it really quickly at TIA, I told, every rep I talked to, we either gave them a card or something. And we said, hey, give us a week and a half when we get back because, we got to get caught up from being gone for 3 days and all that kind of stuff. And I don't want to get bombarded. And I remember about a week after I got back, I was like fully caught up from everything, had a few minutes. And I reached out to the sales guy for you guys that I was talking to. And I was like, hey, want to get something set up. And the first thing he said back to me was, yeah, I have my calendar reminder set up for 3 days from now to reach out to you because you said a week and a half and it's only been a week. And I said, you know what? He listened to me. I was like, I'm going to give him a little bit more of a chance. But I think what really sold me on Speed to Quote was we were sitting on the demo and I don't remember if it was the Outlook plugin or the RFP tool. But we were being shown something on it. And I asked the question and I said, hey, have you ever thought about this would be really cool if it could do this? And both you and the sales rep were like, yeah, we're going to write that down. And I think before we even went live, you had rolled out our idea as an enhancement for the tool. And for me, I was like, wow, we're not even a customer yet. And they're already listening to feedback and taking it. And you don't find that all the time. There's a lot of places that are like, nope, this is our product. Take it as it is, like it or leave it. And it was like, we're sitting on a sales call and, you're taking our ideas and implementing them as something that works in the system.
Yeah. So Jared, first off, yeah, really appreciate that compliment, both on our team and how we develop. I say this all the time. We are just a different type of software vendor. Every single inch of our product, there's nothing in there where Ben Darren said, hey, I want to design it like this or develop it to do this. No. Every inch of our product has all been developed because of our customers providing feedback on exactly what they want the tool to do. And yeah, there might be some scenarios where are super unique, but most of the time, look, our customers, they know the market, they know what they're looking for. we don't need to reinvent the wheel. Just tell us what you want and we'll go build it. We'll go get it added. And so we are super customer centric in our development. And that is my number one rule for the business is customer first. Always, always, always customer first.
Yeah, and I can definitely attest to seeing that from how long, we've been a customer and just some of the ideas we've shared on, hey, we'd like to see this, or can it do that? And, you guys have either figured it out or said, oh, well, hey, it can do that, but you're looking at it wrong. Look over here. Mm-hmm. And it's refreshing because like, there's a lot of things that you don't think of when you're sitting in a demo that like you wish something could do because you're trying to digest all that information that's coming in. And then when you get in there and you start running a couple RFPs or different tools, you're like, oh man, this would be really cool. And instead of it being like, hey, it's going to take us 8 months to build this, or yeah, we can do that, but it's going to cost you 10 grand. It's like, you know what? If you're thinking it's a good idea, maybe our other customers think it's a good idea. And stuff gets rolled out pretty quickly and, it always works when it gets rolled out. I mean, I think I've only seen one little buggy thing ever, and that took you guys like 24 hours to fix. I don't even think it was that long. It was like the next morning.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So Jared, what has been some of the value that the system has provided you? Is there any ROI that you'd like to be able to share with other brokers using our system?
Yeah, the biggest value I think it's added, one, I hate saying the speed to getting the quote because it's your name, but the quickness in getting the cost back and being able to cost comparison the different platforms we use. That's been huge because it's a big time saver. The other place that it's really, I feel like we've gotten our biggest ROI is on the RFP system. Being able to get all of those costs back quickly, being able to upload essentially almost any formatted Excel and dumping it in there without having to do a lot of manual intervention. And, there's some where you just can't. You have to do it because it's the most funky spreadsheet you've ever seen in your life. And there's times where I don't even know how some of these people create them. It just it boggles my mind. But, getting those costs back very quickly, being able to enter your rates right next to it, scroll through the screen back and forth without having to click into different programs, it all just being on one screen. I mean, for me, even if it hasn't gotten us more margin because we're still quoting the same rates, it's saved us time. So it's giving us time back in our day. And as a broker, time's money. So, that's where we're getting the most value add is the extra time we have to make extra phone calls or extra sales calls, or to knock out 5 quotes in 2 minutes as opposed to 15 minutes. Like that for me is where it's all worth it.
So that's great to hear. And I know you kind of already talked a little bit about this, but what has been your customer experience dealing with S2Q systems?
From my standpoint as a customer, it's been great. Like I said, I think anytime we've had any type of question, I've reached out. I think it's taken you at most 10 minutes to ever respond to me. And usually it's, hey, can you jump on a quick call? We go over what's going on, or you show me a different way of looking at whatever I was looking at. The response times are great. The feedback we've given as to what we've seen and then those enhancements coming in, to me, that's like the game changer because it's great seeing that kind of stuff. And then even stuff that we didn't think of that probably somebody else asked. And those enhancements coming in. You guys rolled out your multi-bid RFP platform a couple of weeks ago. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. Like we can upload round 2, we can upload round 3. And like, we're not overriding the data that's already there. And, I was like, man, I didn't think of this. I'm like, but I'm glad they did because this is all, it's good stuff. So I think from a customer feedback, it's refreshing to have vendors that feel more like partners than we subscribe to their product and we use it, but they don't know who we are and we don't really know who they are. And, you guys, along with a couple other vendors that we have that kind of more ingrained relationship with, it really feels more like a partnership, which, and I know, and carriers know, and customers know. That's what makes the difference in our industry. Like, when you can really partner with the people you're working with, you feel like there's a vested interest by everybody to make the product better.
Couldn't agree more. Again, I've said it once, said it a million times. It's customer first. It's customer first. I don't care. Even if I can't, respond to one of our sales guys that have questions or fully answer it, I'm at least responding with, hey, I see the issue. Give me a few minutes. I'll get right back to you. But at the end of the day, if you don't have good relationships with your customers or constantly, fielding, needs and wants or tackling issues, it's just a ticketing system, my personal belief, not the best way to go.
You're easily replaceable in that moment if you don't have that partnership.
Yep, absolutely. So switching gears a little bit, what are you currently seeing just in the transportation market in general as issues, hitting our industry today? Like what are some of the biggest problems that you're having to deal with?
I think the biggest issue that everybody's dealing with, outside of volumes being stagnant over a long time, fraud's obviously on the top of everybody's mind. The ever evolving game that is the fraud industry it's like every time you catch up, they change their tactic. I've said before, if the people that were committing this fraud put their efforts to good use, they might be able to solve cancer because they outsmart everybody they deal with. I mean, it's crazy. Outside of that, the other challenges, I think there was some oversaturation in the market over the last 5 years, maybe. Logistics, trucking in general saw what I would say is probably the craziest time ever, that post-COVID years when you couldn't find trucks. Freight was like at a premium. Everything in the country was moving all over the place. And it was really impacted by that early part of COVID when everything went bonkers and people were rushing to the store to buy, containers worth of paper towels and toilet paper and all this other kinds of stuff. And at that time, companies had started ratcheting back on their inventory. They were ordering stuff more just in time. They weren't keeping a lot of inventory on hand because the economy wasn't super strong and people weren't buying in bulk. So they really got caught with just not having enough supply on hand and then had to catch up. And over that time, I think a lot of people saw the money that could be made in a short time period, and everybody was trying to get into the game and either build their own brokerage or build their own trucking company. And, unfortunately, a lot of people started companies at that time with loans at ungodly interest rates. And, I remember 2022, I was sitting in a meeting and I was at an asset-based truckload carrier with a brokerage at that time. We were sitting in a leadership meeting, and they were talking about their trailer orders for that year. And the price of a dry van went from $30,000 to $65,000 year over year. And I remember the owner just like his face dropped. He's like, how does anybody expect a 100 truck carrier to stay in business? And that's really what, some of those smaller guys that first came out in that time were buying either used equipment or new equipment at insanely high pricing with insanely high interest rates and weren't able to keep up. And now we're kind of seeing that ship right size itself a little bit because we're starting to come back into a normal ebb and flow of the market and supply and demand in different areas. And now when there's a weather event in certain areas of the country, you feel the impacts like you used to. It's kind of gotten back to pre-COVID kind of times. And now it's just there's freight out there, so you just got to find it and you got to service it well and make sure you're doing your job to not let your competitors in.
Yep. Yep. That's good. That's good insight there. So just to wrap things up, two final questions. First is there anything else that you want people to know about Duie Pyle, about your company, about the asset side or the brokerage side?
I think the big thing is, I said earlier in the very beginning, we focus on what we're strong at. However, we also know how to think outside the box. We had a customer come to us a few months ago, needed a service line that we had never set up before. They needed a cross dock in a part of the country where we don't have one, consolidation point, truckload shipments up to the Northeast, full tracking visibility from start to finish to not only just our terminal, but then from our terminal to the destination, which, the Pyle system does all the LTL tracking, but it didn't have the truckload tracking. So we quickly jumped together and said, okay, we can do this. Like, we have truckload tracking, we have LTL tracking. How do we make the two merge together? And we came up with a solution within, I think, like a week. We found a cross dock for the customer. So we have this consolidation lane that goes on where not only our customer, but our customer's customer can use our Pyle Pro number in the Pyle website and get full visibility of their shipment from the time it leaves the border until the time it gets to our cross dock, and then from our cross dock to all of our customers. So, just because we don't have the service or the technology in place today doesn't mean we're not going to figure it out if it makes sense to meet the customer's needs. Got it.
Fantastic insight there. So, Jared, we'll end it with this last little question here. I know you're outside of Philly, and I know you're obviously a big fan of exercise and weightlifting, and you certainly got certainly have seen your inspirational videos on LinkedIn, and I gotta admit, I'm into my second week back working out, so it feels good. Results aren't there yet, but it's a slow process. But I gotta ask, and this is the most important question: what is your favorite cheesesteak in Philadelphia?
So my favorite cheesesteak is actually at a spot outside of Philadelphia. It's in a town called Lansdale, Pennsylvania, and it's Ray's Pizzeria or Ray's Cheesesteaks. I actually have friends that lived in Philly, and they would come out and we'd hang out on the weekends and stuff, and we'd grab a cheesesteak from there. And I had a few friends that actually started traveling out of Philly to get the cheesesteaks there. Angelo's are good. Pat's and Geno's, to me, they're tourist attractions anymore nowadays. Like, people are, is it Pat's or Geno's? I'm like, neither.
Right.
Like most people inside of Philly, it's like you go there after a late night or you're going there as a tourist thing. But yeah, it's really hard to find a bad cheesesteak, I'll be honest.
Fantastic, Jared. Well, hey, thank you so very, very much for taking the time to speak with us today. Really appreciate you and your whole entire team and the Duie Pyle company as one of our customers. So thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, no problem. We appreciate all the support we've gotten since we've gone live with you guys and look forward to a continued relationship.
Fantastic.